channel. This is going to be a very interesting video, so I want you to stick around for the entire thing today. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to first start with a couple of news articles that I think have a lot of value because they're going to tell us something about what's happening in the immediate term and in the long term. Then we're going to switch over to the Dow Jones Industrial Average chart. I want to take a very brief look at that, compare it to the SPX, and look at the Dow futures. That's also going to tell us what might happen on Monday. And really, Bitcoin may follow this, so it's going to be very important. Then we're going to look at the Bitcoin chart, look at some Bitcoin analytics, some on-chain analytics, and then we're going to switch over to EGLD. There's a lot to talk about with EGLD because EGLD has had a number of changes in the last couple of weeks that have added a lot of value to the network. On top of that, there's some things going on with the NFTs that are pretty interesting. So we're going to take a look at all of these things today, and then we're going to deep dive into the EGLD chart and see what we see as far as chart goes. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Links are in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at this article here. So this article is about the virus that we can't name on YouTube because we might get banned. But basically what they're saying is that this new version of it is 1.5 times more contagious than the current one, and it's already circulating in almost half of the United States. So it says that this subvariant known as BA.2 is 1.5 times more transmissible than the original O strain, according to the Danish scientists. The UK Health Security Agency said on Friday that BA.2 has a substantial growth advantage over the original O, known as BA.1. Nearly half of US states has confirmed the presence of BA.2 with at least 127 cases nationwide as of Friday. I mean, 127 cases isn't that much, but I really want to keep an eye on this, and I want to see how fast this thing spreads and if it's hitting people that have already had it. What's actually the impact of this? I think this is going to affect the market because this news came out at 4:49 p.m. on Friday. This came out after market close. So we haven't seen the markets react to this yet. And usually the media uses stuff like this as a scare tactic and it causes people to sell. So we're going to have to see if the same thing happens here, something to keep your eye on. All right, next thing I want to look at is this article here. This says that a state senator introduces a bill to make Bitcoin legal tender in Arizona. So it says State Senator Wendy Rogers has included a bill to make Bitcoin legal tender in the state of Arizona. The bill proposes adding Bitcoin to the existing list of legal tender definitions. The bill defines Bitcoin as a decentralized peer-to-peer currency in which a record of transactions is maintained on the Bitcoin blockchain and new units of currency are generated by the computational solution of mathematical problems that operates independently of a central bank. So that's basically a description of Bitcoin, but this is really the key thing. There's been a bill now submitted by a state senator in Arizona to make Bitcoin legal tender. This is pretty big because I think you're going to see this happen in a lot of states. And here's why. You have over 40 million people, maybe more than that in the United States, with Bitcoin wallets because there's a lot of wallets on exchanges. These are people who believe in Bitcoin and want to see Bitcoin succeed, and they want a currency that is not manipulated by the market. They do not want something that people can just print infinite amounts of. And you get that stability with Bitcoin along with the security, being able to self-custody and being able to transfer it anywhere at any time. I mean, you look at property as far as ownership, and real estate is probably it's probably the largest amount of property that most people own. Now, the problem with real estate is as an investment vehicle, it's not very easy to sell. It's not very easy to really make a huge profit on because you have to hold it for such a long period of time. And on top of that, it is very difficult to maintain. So what you have with real estate is you have to find renters, you have to vet people, you have to look at their credit, you have to fix things, you have maintenance costs, you have property taxes. On top of that, you also have to basically end up figuring out, how am I going to sell this property? Do I have to put any more money into it? Do I need to do any additions? Do I need to repaint? Do I need to do all this until you sell? And then when you sell, you have commissions, you have closing costs. Bitcoin, you don't have to do any of that. You can hold this property, which has been appreciating better than real estate, and you can sell it instantly. You pay the same amount in capital gains as you would on real estate as long as you've been holding it for longer than a period of a year, right? So it's very, very interesting in that sense that it gives you this ability to invest in property, and use it as a legal tender that you can't really do with other types of property. So this is very interesting. I think this is something to keep in mind. There's a lot of reasons why Bitcoin would become legal tender. Now, why is this important also? This is very important because you start to realize that with these many people, like 40 plus million people with Bitcoin wallets, this is going to become a big political point. There are going to be a lot of politicians that start supporting Bitcoin in order to get votes from those 40 million people that support it. This could be a way for people to start winning elections because now they're going after people based on something that applies to a lot of people at a time when something like Bitcoin is very important. People need an investment vehicle like Bitcoin. So I think it's a very, very interesting thing to see, and I'm very curious to see what states do it next. I think it's very, very bullish. Okay, now let's go on to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So when we look at this chart, this is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? This is where it closed last week. So the Dow on Friday closed at 34,725 points. That was the value of the Dow. Now, when we look at SPX, you see SPX did something similar, very similar move, right? Now, I want to look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average futures. So this is what's happened in the futures market. This is what the futures market is betting is going to happen. Well, you see we closed at the actual market closed at 34,725. The futures are at 34,595. So the futures are actually down by about 130 points. Now, what's interesting about that is if the futures are down, that means there's a reason the futures are down. I think some of it might have to do with that first article about the variant that we talked about. So that could be part of it. It could be that people got overly bullish at the end of last week, and now the market is looking to correct a little bit. But overall, I mean, if you look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average on a purely technical standpoint on the charts, well, what you're really seeing is that it hit the oversold level, and now it's recovering from there. If you go back, you'll see that majority of times that it's hit oversold, it moves up further. Now, there's no guarantee that the exact same thing is going to happen and we're just going to have a, straight up V-shaped recovery on the Dow, but I do feel like the overselling was not really warranted because the overselling was based on fear of what Jerome Powell and the Fed may do, and they're really not doing anything yet. And I think we have to keep in mind they don't want the economy to fail. They are willing to adjust monetary policy to meet their goals. That was their words. If they are willing to do that, then they will probably do very strategic rate hikes that do not upset markets too much. We'll have to see how that plays out, but I think we could be in store for a very slight amount of downside on Monday unless we see the futures numbers drop even more. And then we should be in for another uptrend, probably putting the Dow Jones Industrial Average closer to this 20 exponential moving average at around 35,000. So I'm expecting about a 400-point increase in the Dow sometime early next week. We'll have to see if that plays out, and I think that's going to relate directly back to Bitcoin. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart. If we look at the Bitcoin chart, what we'll see happen here is that we had a little bit of a recovery too, and what's ironic is that our recovery began a little bit before the Dow Jones. Now, we are seeing that this recovery is still keeping Bitcoin on the daily chart in oversold territory. We are actually in a major support zone, well, now resistance zone that we were looking at previously. So this is between 37,000 and 40,000. So this is a pretty interesting area, especially now, because if you zoom in, you can see that on the daily, this 20 exponential moving average has broken into this zone. It's sitting at around 39,600. So we can expect a good amount of resistance there at the 39 to 40K level. That's been known for quite a while, but now with the 20 exponential moving average there, it becomes more important that we do not reject, because if we reject like we have on the daily, from the 20 exponential moving average in all these areas, like we rejected there, we rejected there, we rejected there. If we reject again somewhere around here, like right here, right? If the moving average keeps going like this and we hit it and then we go down, well, then I think it is completely possible we are back in store for around 33,000 Bitcoin. Right? 33,000 price for Bitcoin. I think that's entirely feasible right now, especially with the news of that variant. But I do think longer term, when you're seeing politicians getting more involved in Bitcoin and using it as a way to get votes, that's going to be something that's really going to be bullish for Bitcoin. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's move on to a couple of other time frames. All right, we're going to look at the 4-hour time frame. Now, when we look at the 4-hour time frame, we start to see something slightly different. Like we looked at this a little bit before and we had a symmetrical triangle. Well, now it's looking a little bit bigger. So if we look at this as a symmetrical triangle now, basically what we are seeing is we are seeing something like this, right? We got to take this out a little bit further than we normally would because the time scale could be a little larger. So we're always going to overestimate. So if we use this as our tops and bottoms and we're kind of looking at the areas where we wicked up as being overextended from the pattern, well, then basically what that's telling us is that we would likely assume that a move is going to be coming sometime by the 31st. So that's sometime on Monday. And that makes sense because we're going to have to see what markets do by then. Now, keep in mind on the 4-hour, we are kind of on top of the 20 exponential moving average. That's quite bullish. We did fall below it. We had kind of called this before. I remember telling you guys in my last video that it's very possible that we like top out around 38. We actually went above 38, like close to 38,900 until we topped out. And then we came back down and we touched the bottom of this new trading channel. We actually went a little bit below the 36 area where I thought we would be. And we actually went down all the way to 37,000. So this was just 2 days ago. Now we're pretty much coming back up here. We're still putting in this symmetrical triangle, and we're on top of the 200 exponent or the 20 exponential moving average. 20 exponential moving average is sitting at around 37,200. So what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that if we don't get support on that 37,200 level, then we are likely coming back down to 36,300. So what I'm talking about is something like this. We see, are we going to get support here, right? And if not, are we going to drop down here? I am actually thinking this is the most likely scenario for early next week because I think the start of the week will probably be a little bit bearish. Futures are already down for the Dow. So I think we may see the Dow sell off a little bit on Monday and then recover either by the end of the day or start putting in positive numbers by Tuesday or Wednesday. So that to me tells me that Bitcoin very likely could drop down, touch around 36,400, and then from there start moving back up. This is assuming the correlation to the Dow continues. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. Keep an eye on it. I'm looking at around 36,000 to be a decent buy zone. And obviously, I'm not opposed to us moving up right now. I would love to see it. That's always a good thing. But I prefer, my orders triggering. So I wouldn't mind if we drop down. That'll be good. But even if we move up, not a bad thing. If we move up, I'm looking at around 39,000 as being a major resistance. We have a moving average there on the 4-hour and on the daily. So it's a very important area. Now, short term, I think the key really is how do we interact with this 20? If you see us drop below this 20 at 37,200, well then I would expect 36,200, another $1,000 drop to be coming within 24 to 48 hours and then getting support there. If the Dow Jones and global markets are a lot more bearish, then I think it's very likely you're going to see us fall out of this pattern and drop back down around the $35,000 area. So keep that in mind. It's very difficult to give you an exact estimate of what's going to happen right now, but those are the up and down targets I'm looking at for Bitcoin. Now, the interesting thing with Bitcoin is this is actually all happening on a very decent amount of volume, but what I'm noticing on the volume here is that we actually seem to have more volume coming in with buys than we do with sells. Now, this is on Coinbase. If we switch over to Binance, what you're seeing with Binance, we actually got to zoom in a lot because there's so much trading activity on Binance. So if we zoom in with Binance, what you're seeing here is that on Binance, you're actually seeing something very, very similar. You saw a lot of selling activity during this drop, but you've been seeing a sustained amount of buying, and actually the buy candles, some of them are exceeding the sell candles. So what I expect to see here, if we are going to move up, is more large buy candles come in and start pushing the price up further. What you'll also notice when you're looking at this chart, and this is the same chart we looked at before, except it just doesn't have all the drawings, right? So on this chart, we can kind of infer one other thing. It's that we are getting, the price is starting to get squeezed between the 20 exponential moving average and the 50 exponential moving average. If the price continue to get squeezed here, well, then we're looking at, once again, 39K as a high, and then possibly coming back down and allowing these moving averages to constrict even more. So there's a lot of things telling me that 39,000 is a high, but if markets go up on Monday, which it's looking unlikely that they're going to go up for a few days. So it looks more like the markets are going to be down Monday and you'll likely see a dip. But that dip could just stop at 37K and we could see the price just keep getting constricted here until we have a breakout or a breakdown. So keep that in mind right now. I think it's still very, very early to decide exactly where the market's going to go, but you got to look at global markets right now to kind of infer what may happen with Bitcoin. All right, so that's pretty much the majority for Bitcoin. We'll take a very, very close look, or a very quick look real quick at the on-chain metrics. One of the things that I think is very important with Bitcoin on-chain is looking at net flow and exchange reserves. So we're going to take a look at those. First thing, if we look at net flow, we can see here that since the price has been in this 37,000 to 38,000 area, like since the last 24 hours or so, we've been seeing massive outflows. So there's been a lot of Bitcoin leaving exchanges. There's no guarantee yet that these aren't just wallet transfers for exchanges, but it doesn't seem like that because CryptoQuant is pretty good at updating those wallets. So right now it seems like a lot of Bitcoin is moving off exchanges. If we compare this to the exchange reserves, well, you can kind of see the correlation, right? You look long term and you start to see that once we hit this dip, we actually hit a new low for exchange reserves in 2021. Now, if we're in 2022, basically 2021 and 2022. Now, if we take a look at the block level, so this is a more zoomed in level, right? We see what happened here is that as the price kept moving sideways here, we kept seeing more Bitcoin leave exchanges. So there was a lot of accumulation going on. When the price went up to around 38,000, we saw a spike of Bitcoin go onto exchanges, and then we saw the price crash. So it's very likely that whatever Bitcoin went onto exchanges here was sold. It led to this price crash. Then what we see is that the Bitcoin exchange reserves dropped. So what is that telling me? That's telling me that when the price dipped back to 37.4, well, a lot more Bitcoin left exchanges. Now we're seeing that that's going up again, which is once again a bearish sign. So you might see the price dip back down to around 37K, see these exchange reserves drop even further, and then price may start recovering again. So this is usually accumulation patterns, right? That's basically what you're seeing. You're seeing people come in and sell some Bitcoin, and then you're seeing all that Bitcoin plus more leave exchanges. So the exchange reserves are continually dropping. If you look at this at a longer time frame, like we go back a couple of weeks, well, what you start to see here is that there has been a massive, massive drop in exchange reserves. They have kept just flowing down. You go down to the hourly, it looks even more clear, right? You start to notice that these exchange reserves are just massively dropping. Then you go to the daily, and that's when you really start to notice that as the price has been dropping, the exchange reserves have been dropping. You zoom out and you start to see that exchange reserves now are as low as they were back in August 2018. So there's a very low supply of Bitcoin on exchanges relative to price. Supply shock getting worse. That is everything for Bitcoin. You've seen the charts, you've seen everything. Let's move on to Elrond. There's a lot to do there. I think Bitcoin is super, super bullish, so I think you should keep a very close eye on it. The fact that a state has put forth a bill, I know it's only one senator that's done that. That's a very bullish thing. It's going to give her a lot of talking points in the political space during midterms. So I think this is going to be a big thing. You're going to see a lot more politicians in the United States start supporting and talking about Bitcoin because they want to win over this growing voter base. And that in itself is going to grow Bitcoin, and it's going to be free advertisement. People are going to have to learn about it. They're going to have to figure out what is Bitcoin? Why are all these people supporting it suddenly? And I think that's going to drive a lot of adoption. So keep that in mind. We've gone over a lot. Let's move on to Elrond. Okay, so Elrond, the first thing that I want to talk about is some of the new things that have happened with Elrond. All right, let's switch over to the chart. Let's switch over to this view here. So if we look at the chart, we're just going to do a brief overview of the chart, then we're going to take a look at what's been happening. So what you'll see here is that Elrond took a massive dip with the rest of the market. It hit this new regression channel, and what we're seeing now is that the price is slowly recovering. The price is sitting at around $144.99 right now. It's been going up with the rest of the market, right? You compare it to Bitcoin, you see the recovery looks very similar. So it's somewhat been following Bitcoin. Now what's interesting about this is it's following Bitcoin as far as price. So that means you got to keep in mind with something like Elrond and with a lot of other assets, the price is determined by what's happening on the exchanges. Most of the people on exchanges are traders. There's a lot of accumulators going in and buying, and you're seeing all that EGLD leave exchanges. Exchanges have just had to refill recently. So if you're seeing so much going out, but the price is being determined by traders, the traders are actually doing the holders a favor because they are selling off, bringing the price down, and the people accumulating, like myself, are able to buy cheaper. Now, what's interesting about this, because it's following Bitcoin, I don't think it's even nearly priced in what's actually going on with the network. So we have to take a look at what's happening with the Elrond network. So the first thing we see is some news that came out very recently, right? A couple of weeks ago. Elrond has purchased Utrust. Basically, that's a crypto payment provider. It allows an on-ramp and off-ramp to pay with crypto. And that means you can now buy things with EGLD. There's going to be more and more merchants using Utrust, and Elrond is slowly going to become a form of payment. Once people also realize that Elrond is almost easier to use than even PayPal, well, then you start to notice how something like this can be very, very valuable, especially for the long term. This is one of those things that is almost like a chess move to set up Elrond in a different market sector in the future. This is the market sector of payments. This is just one of them, right? This is one of many market sectors. Let's see what else is going on with Elrond. Well, the next thing we have is the DeFi wallet. The DeFi wallet has now updated its security to help with phishing and scams. This is really important. The safety of your users is super, super important. The more work we see being done to the DeFi wallet, to the Elrond Online wallet, to the Maiar app, all these things are going to be very, very important. This is adding value to the network, to the applications, to the platform, to the ecosystem. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this. This was an article posted very, very recently. Let's actually go into full screen mode. So this says full screen mode's a little better. This says open the floodgates. New markets are coming. The Maiar DEX token listing process. So what is this? In the gist of it, this is telling us the listing process to register tokens, create your liquidity pools, put in your liquidity, and enable swapping, add farms, global visibility. It tells you how to do those things. And this is all beginning on January the 31st. That's 2 days away. So basically in 2 days, there is going to be a listing process to allow new pairs to start coming onto Elrond. And because of the fact that you can bridge this with Ethereum and ESDT, well, then you might start seeing a lot of tokens from other platforms start listing on the Maiar exchange. This is very, very important because keep in mind, once you're listed on the Maiar exchange and your token is there, your liquidity is there, suddenly swaps and transactions go down to pennies. It becomes so much cheaper to swap. Why would anyone who wants to trade any tokens on Maiar trade them anywhere else? There's no reason to. What does that mean? Well, that means that as more tokens are listed on the DEX, there's going to be more demand for users. People aren't going to want to use things like Uniswap or other Ethereum-based swapping like other exchanges. As these come in, because of the technology that exists to allow this on-ramp for all these tokens to start coming into the DEX, well, suddenly there's going to be a huge demand for EGLD. Any of the people that want to trade on Maiar in order to, do it instantly and have far less fees, well, what they're going to do is they're going to go buy EGLD and they're going to want to come in and start staking the EGLD, start earning MEX, start buying the other tokens, putting them in farms. Suddenly you start to see the demand for MEX go up, the demand for even Holoride go up because new users are coming to the system. The demand for LockMex is going to go up, more people staking, which in turn is going to make the demand for trading pairs, farms, liquidity, EGLD, everything go up, right? As you have more tokens listed, you have more users coming in, you have more people familiarizing themselves with the network, and you start to have more activity, more transactions, more visibility, more news articles, more value. So there's a lot of value coming in. And this, friends, this has not been priced in. This is not even close to priced in. This tells me that there is a very, very big chance that as this starts happening, we start to see all of these things that are generating more value get priced into the Elrond network. As they get priced in, you start to see price going up. So I strongly believe this is going to be an interesting year for Elrond. Now, granted, we are following Bitcoin. So as we're following Bitcoin, it may take some time for these things to get priced in, but to me, that's an opportunity. Now we're going to take a look at NFTs. After we look at the NFTs, we're going to go back. So what I want you to take a look at with these NFTs is some of these floor prices, okay? So this is Elrond Apes on Dead Rare, and you see the floor price here is 9.9 EGLD now, okay? Then we look at Elrond Apes on eMoon, it's 9.8 EGLD. All right, then we're looking at Gnogons. I don't know if I say it right. Gnogons is how I say it. But we're looking at Gnogons, and we see here that the floor price on Dead Rare now is 11.3 EGLD. This is a 10K NFT project, so there's 10,000 Gnogons. Well, what we see here is an 11.3 EGLD floor price on Dead Rare, and there's only 253 listed. People aren't selling. So the floor price is massive. It's gone up insanely considering this was what, 0.4 EGLD or something to mint one. If you were able to mint one at the time that they got minted, if you were in Elrond, if you knew about NFTs here. Well, then we also look at the same collection on eMoon and you see it's 11.4 here. And there's only 93 on sale out of 10,000. This is insanity. The value of NFTs on Elrond are going up drastically. They are basically beating the entire market right now. Even if you look at Bitcoin, they're beating everything. It's absolute madness. You look at Drifters. Drifters already a floor price of 4.99 on Dead Rare. Then you look at eMoon, and the floor price is 5.78. You look at Elrond Dux, 3.5 on Dead Rare, 3.3 on eMoon. Maiar Punks, 2.99 on Dead Rare, 3 on eMoon. This is absolute craziness. All of these are appreciating like crazy. These are the blue chips of Elrond. There's more NFTs coming. Heck, I have my own NFTs on Elrond too, and even those are doing well. Like, what's happening right now is that Elrond has tapped in to the NFT market, and it's made it far more accessible. You also have Trust Market. You have Dead Rare, you have Trust Market, you have eMoon, and eMoon is actually building a new version of their website. I saw a little link on their Twitter, and it looks pretty awesome. So there's a lot of innovation going on with the markets. There's a lot of new features coming where you can stake your NFTs, and the value of NFTs are going up very, very rapidly for the blue chip projects. Now, the reason I think this is very important to mention is because this brings a lot of value to eGold. That's not been priced in. What's happening here is that these are the first few projects, and we're seeing the massive demand for NFTs on Elrond. Now, what's going to happen as projects on Ethereum and other blockchains and new NFT projects start to see that they are spending so much on fees and their buyers are spending so much on fees and gas fees that they aren't really making profit. The profit is just going to the miners. Well, then at that point, they're realizing they need something like Elrond. And when you see how rapidly Elrond's growing in the NFT space, you start to see a lot of value. So what have we gone over with Elrond so far? Utrust, Web3 payments, okay? Adding value, not priced in. Then the Maiar DEX. Listing new tokens starting at the end of this month. That process is going to be live, not priced in. NFTs, the value of NFTs beating most markets, growing so rapidly, not priced in. That tells me none of these things are priced in because of what's happening with the broader market. And once the broader crypto market begins its solid recovery past the 40K mark, 44K, Bitcoin starts moving back up towards all-time highs, right? We start breaking out of these consolidation patterns and we start seeing Bitcoin make moves like this. Now, granted, I don't know when it's going to happen. Hopefully it happens soon, but this is what will end up happening with Bitcoin. It will keep moving up. It may be a little bit longer from here, but eventually that will happen. As that happens, and I think it'll happen probably within the next 3 to 6 months maximum, Q3 of 2022. I think Q2 is when we're really going to see bullishness start coming back to the market because the Fed is going to be giving out a lot of information on what they're doing with rates. As that starts happening, I think Bitcoin recovers, a lot of alts start recovering, and then certain alts that have made a lot of progress that has not been priced in will hit all-time highs. I think Elrond will be one of those because Elrond, look at this, all right? Elrond went up to around $530 when it topped out, right? It topped out there because a lot of speculation from the DEX, and you had a lot of people coming on and buying eGold so they could farm and get the maximum out of their rewards. They were compounding, farming, making as much as they could. And then as markets started to drop, a lot of those people sold off. So that was a lot of speculation moving us up this way. Well, now what's happened when we've dropped is that the value of the network intrinsically has gone up because they have made a lot of changes. They have purchased a Web3 payments platform. NFTs have been doing very well. And then, like I said, we are also seeing a huge listing process come to the DEX, which is going to bring a lot more tokens in. And I think that's really going to drive the demand of the DEX that is nowhere near priced in, because I think it would have been priced in somewhere here at around 500, but a lot of that was speculation. I think what's going to happen is as those listings come in and more users come in, these prices are going to start rising. I don't know exactly when, but I think they will as soon as we start seeing Bitcoin recover. There's also a possibility that Elrond could start moving ahead of Bitcoin and getting ahead on the eGold BTC chart. We could see a breakout there. And the reason I say that, I mean, if we look at the BTC pairs and look at eGold BTC, what you're seeing is it's very correlated right now too. The chart looks roughly the same as the USD, which means it's very much following Bitcoin. But if you look at eGold BTC, you're seeing quite clearly here that we're getting a lot of support on the 4-hour on the 20 exponential moving average. And we are putting in a very clear symmetrical triangle here, even more clear than what we are seeing on the USD chart. Now, what this tells me is that if we're going to move up from here, EGLD BTC is going to break above the 0.00487 level, which is a pretty massive move up. And I think it's going to continue moving up. This also tells me that it may happen may happen soon, because right now we are seeing this get constricted. And I think in the next few days, possibly with the release of the listing process, we're going to see a breakout here, which will also correlate with a USD breakout. So I think a breakout for Elrond is overdue. I don't think the market has priced in anything that's been happening. I think we're going to see a lot more crazy activity start happening with EGLD, and I would look very closely at the EGLD BTC chart, because I think right now that is giving us a more clear indication of what's actually happening. We are consolidating big time, and we are getting to the point now where it's getting constricted, and we could see a breakout at any time. So I think that we are going to see that. The only thing that drives whether that happens or not happens is how Bitcoin reacts in the first few days of this week. So if you're looking for good EGLD prices, I would say you probably have another week until we start seeing some appreciation, because I feel like the market will start pricing in some of these things, especially as new listings come on. So keep in mind, if we are that undervalued, which I think we are, as those new listings come on, even if Bitcoin is consolidating, I think it's very possible that we see that breakout on the EGLD BTC chart and we see Elrond start moving up. It's overdue, and it needs to be priced in. So the only way I see us dropping massively is if Bitcoin has a huge crash. And then the traders who control the price, because they're the ones in liquidity, they have the liquid supply of EGLD, are the ones selling. The illiquid supply is the supply that's not moving, right? It's the majority of the supply that's in staking, that's in your wallets and Maiar that you're using to buy NFTs, that you are not selling, but you are using in the ecosystem. And also whatever is, in stake, like in farms, liquidity pools, all that stuff. None of that is being sold. So that's the illiquid supply. The liquid supply is the traders. If Bitcoin crashes, EGLD could take a dip. But to me, that's another opportunity, because I have a feeling that when things do start getting priced in, it's going to be pretty massive. All right, that is pretty much it as far as the news on EGLD. If we look at the chart right now, I think the biggest thing to see is when do we hit this 20 exponential moving average on the daily. That's at 165 right now, okay? So what I really want to see is I want to see us come up and touch this moving average, likely when it moves over this way. So probably around the 160 mark, sometime early February. So in a couple of days, I want to see us start moving towards that 160 area. If we keep consolidating here a little bit longer, that's fine. That'll bring down this moving average. But the key really is when we hit this 20 exponential moving average, how do we react? Because what I do not want to see on this 20 is for us to move below it. I want to see us so this is what I want to see. And this is what I think we may see, because of the fact that the listing process is starting so soon. I think what we may see is the price moving up, hitting that 160 to 165 area, consolidating a bit, and then seeing a breakout into this 195 golden pocket area where we start putting in a lot of sideways trading. Now, keep in mind, if we do trade sideways longer between 150 and 190 for like a week or two, that's not a bad thing, because we need more volume there. So I'm totally fine with that. But I think that with the listing process happening so soon, it's very likely that you're going to see prices back to 160, 165 sooner than you think. Keep that in mind. When the first listing comes out and suddenly you start seeing more demand coming in, get ready for it. That's pretty much it, you guys. I hope that gave you a good amount of information. There's not a ton more to look at on the chart because it's very self-explanatory, right? We are seeing that we are starting to reach out of oversold levels. You see on the daily, we just had a bullish flip on the MACD. So if you look at the MACD here, you're seeing that the MACD just flipped bullish. You're starting to see that move up, but we saw that here too, and it was only a very tiny move up. I want to see a more sustained move up here because now we're coming close to the point where the listing process is starting. So keep that in mind. We are basically seeing all bullish signals, but until we see us above this 45 level, breaking past 165 and holding support there, we are not at a confirmed uptrend. The real uptrend is confirmed once we break about $220, this area here. Once we break this and set in a higher high, that's when the real uptrend is confirmed. Until then, sideways trading, getting support at 140, moving up and getting resistance at 160. These are all very likely possibilities. Keep it all in mind, But the biggest thing I think to keep in mind right now is just how undervalued it is in the market. right? There's so much value that's come in that is not priced in because of the market fear. It's going to get priced in. When it gets priced in, I don't think these prices come back. You know, like I told you a long time ago, when we dipped down like a year ago, right? Or last year, when we dipped down to this level in June 2022 or in June 2021, when we dropped down to around $54, that was from a high of 222. I remember saying at this level, actually it wasn't here, right? Was it here? I think it was around this area, around $70. I was like, I don't think the price is going back down. I think we're about to shift into an uptrend, and I don't think we're going to see these prices again. I bought a lot here, right? I mean, I was buying this whole area, to be honest with you, and even on the way up. But still, I bought a lot here because I didn't think these prices were coming back. And right now, I'm starting to think the same thing in this area. I don't think these prices are going to come back. This is when we came and touched $112. I think it's very unlikely that those prices come back because of the amount of value that's been added to the network that's not been priced in. So keep in mind, if this is our new bottom, well then, where's our new top? Because the last time we hit a new bottom, well, we broke well above the prior top. These cycles are moving. They look like the way the cycles are moving is that you have one top and then a higher top and then a correction. Well, we had one top, then we had a higher top, then we had a correction. So if we move up, we might have one top and then we might have a higher top and then we might have a correction, which could put us well into the $700s, $800. It's very possible. Keep in mind, very speculative right now. Any asset outside of Bitcoin, I believe, is extremely speculative because all of them have a team of people that you're relying on to develop, right? Bitcoin, you're not relying on. Bitcoin could stay exactly the way it is for the next 20 years and still do very well because nobody has to change anything for it to keep functioning. With Elrond, with Ethereum, with ADA, with Polkadot, with all these projects, you have a team of people that need to produce in order for things to do well. So I don't want you to not manage your risk. All I'm telling you is the way I'm looking at it, this seems like a very good asymmetric upside opportunity because of all the growth the network has seen and all the value that's been added. The fact that it could disrupt Ethereum's NFT market as more people start moving over is huge. That's a lot of market participants that have a reason now to come to Elrond. And I think that's going to keep growing. So keep in mind, manage your risk. This is just what I'm seeing. And I think this is a decent time to accumulate. That's what I'm doing. Not financial advice. Do what you got to do because who knows? Maybe it keeps going down. I'll keep accumulating, but you may not be ready for that if you're not into Elrond and understand it. So at the very least, do your research. Go online, read the white paper, learn about the technology, learn about why adaptive state sharding is so important, why Ethereum is trying to essentially implement the same type of sharding, but not even as good as what already exists on Elrond, and why Elrond's NFT market is growing so much. Check it out. Check out the Maiar app. Check out the NFT markets. Deadrare.io, eMoon.space, Trust.market. Check these places out. Check out the NFTs. Check out the floor prices. Just check it out. Don't get overexposed to anything, but don't be underexposed either. That is everything for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. We're going to have more videos coming on Elrond NFTs and how different projects are doing. At some point, I'm going to do a review on the different marketplaces too. I wanted to give the marketplaces some time to innovate and to make updates before I did that. I don't want to do a review on marketplaces in their first 3 months. I want to do it within 6 months because that's when you really see who's making progress, who's innovating. So when we do that, we're going to do a nice overall review on everything, and we're going to see which marketplaces the markets seem to favor, and we're going to look at some top blue chip projects and see how their NFTs are performing. So that video is going to come. We're also going to have a lot more TA. Make sure you join me for more. Make sure you follow me. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. If you think I'm wrong about anything, let me know. If you think I'm right about anything, let me know. And I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, all right? Tomorrow, NFT giveaway, Elrond Hunters on my Twitter. Make sure you're there for that. You have until tomorrow to participate. Just look on my Twitter timeline or history or whatever you call it, and you'll see how to enter. Check it out. That's all up to you. Whoever joins and whoever enters, you have a chance to win one of those NFTs, and who knows what the floor price will be in the next 3 months, the way things are going. So let's check it out. And you never know. I might even have to readjust this coming year my risk tolerance for NFTs because they've been performing so well. Like normally, I don't invest a ton in NFTs, but the way they're performing on Elrond, I just might have to adjust that. in my portfolio. I'm thinking about it. I haven't done it yet, but I might. Anyways, thank you for joining me once again. Like, subscribe, follow Twitter, all that stuff. Link description. Catch you later. Have a wonderful weekend. Peace out.